All right, Roger Bonds. How's it going?
That's blessed, man. Each and every day, man. It's going good.
That's what's up, man. So, for people who might not know, I think everybody kind of knows who you are, but for the people who don't know, you know what I'm saying, can you kind of give them a little bit of history on your relationship and your history with Diddy? How did you become his bodyguard and how did all that take place?
It took place when I came home. I came home in 2000, and I was actually bodyguarding Loon. I had been, but that's another bad boy artist. I had been bodyguarding him for a couple of years, and a real close friend of mine was one of Diddy's security. But I used to always drop him off at work every day. And what happened was when Wolf had stopped working with Puff, they had like an opening there. They was trying to find somebody that they could find that people respected to move into that lane. And his head of security asked my man one day, "Yo, I be seeing homeboy to drop you off every day. I see him holding down Loon and everything. Yo, what's the story? What's up with him? See if he want to come down." So one day I dropped my man down and me and him had a conversation. And I actually became his driver. So I wasn't with Puff. I was his head of security driver for about 3 years. And throughout them 3 years that I was his head of security driver, me and him would start having conversations. Me and him would start talking, and he got comfortable with me being around.
Okay, now, when did you actually make that, leap from just a driver to somebody more important in his security?
2006. 2006, his head of security came to me and said, "Yo, you ready to get on the books?" And it was only like two or three people that could do that at that time. It was 50 Cent, Jay-Z, and Puff, who could actually give you the health insurance, give you the on the books, give you a check, pay taxes. Everybody else was kind of like sporadic. If they got a show, they would have security. But those were the only three guys that could give you an everyday job. So that's what I started doing in 2006.
Was there any situation or anything that happened that made him want to bump you up to it?
Well, it was just about him feeling more comfortable with me, but it was a situation between Jay-Z and R. Kelly. If you remember back then, they had the Best of Both Worlds tour, and R. Kelly had dropped the mic because that's when he had allegations with the young girls and everything else. And he said he seen somebody in the crowd in Madison Square Garden flash a gun at him. So he just dropped the mic and said that he couldn't perform no longer. And Puff just happened to be in the crowd watching the show.
Was Jay-Z on stage with R. Kelly when this happened?
Nah, he wasn't on. He was backstage waiting to go on. So the way they did their show is one went on for a little while, then one went on for a little while, then one went on back and forth, and then at the end of the show, they both would do their songs together that they had together. So this was when R. Kelly first got on the stage. And he just dropped the mic. And Puff said, "Yo," he looked at me, he said, "Yo, is that real?" I said, "Man, I guess so." And the lights went out in Madison Square Garden. All the lights went out. It was pitch black. And Puff Diddy just ran to the back of the stage, and the security moved and let him in the back. And Jay-Z was like, "Yo, what I do?" He was like, "Yo, man, don't worry, we gonna get it together." Ja Rule was actually there, but he was there to do a song that he had with R. Kelly. But Ja Rule said, "Yo, forget that, man. This is New York. I'm rocking with you." Mary J. Blige was there. It was a lot of people from New York there that just formed Voltron and said, "Yo, we gonna finish this show. We gonna rock it out." And R. Kelly and them tried to get back on stage after like 20 minutes. I mean, they security had guns out, everything. And they was trying to get back on stage. And if you know Jay-Z, little man Tata, he was standing backstage and he was like, "Yo, they not getting back up here." And he had some mace and he sprayed the mace. And I grabbed Puff and threw him behind me. And then we started beefing with the other cats. There was a few hands that was thrown. And then I took Tata up out of there and I put him in a cab when we got out. And Jay-Z was like, yo, who your man Ty talking about? And he was like, yo, that's my man Bonds, you know, da-da-da-da. So he said, yo, bring him to 4040 so we could get through. And then Puff was excited because we had some regular police and some federal people that was working with Puff on security too. And Puff said, yo, man, the way you was moving, man, I need you with me all the time. So from that day on, we became like everyday working with him every morning. From like the morning that he woke up, he would give call time to the time that it was time to go to bed.
Who all did Tata spray with the mace? Was it just R. Kelly or was it other people?
Nah, it wasn't R. Kelly. It was just people that was, and he had a big entourage. So it wasn't actually R. Kelly. It was somebody from his entourage that was trying to get on the stage. But they got to get on the stage from the back. And Tata was just standing there, like I told you. Diddy was standing there. They was talking to Jay, and then Jay went back on the stage to perform. But as he's performing, I guess R. Kelly felt like, yo, man, I got to get back on the stage and explain to people what happened. But Tata wasn't going for it because he don't got no idea what they coming back on the stage for. You know what I'm saying? They was rolling deep. It had to be at least 30, 40, 50 of them. You know what I'm saying? And they was rolling deep.
Now this happens and, you know what I'm saying, this kind of solidifies you. You know what I'm saying? People get to see you in action. So you're able to now, they want to promote you. How is that? You know what I'm saying? You know, now you're being promoted. You know what I'm saying? Things are looking better for you. You know
it was a feeling like it was basically like something that you wait to happen. Even though you don't want nothing to happen, you say, yo, you want to prove yourself every day. So when this happened, it was like, yeah, this was what I was waiting for to happen. So I could prove basically that I'm loyal, basically that I got heart, basically that I'm ready to ride or die. Because when you got 30, 40 people and you go into action, it's just something that I was used to doing. It wasn't something that I really had to think about. It was something I was doing all my life. But it felt good to get that promotion because, like I said, coming home, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what tomorrow gonna bring. So that just gave a foundation for me to know that I'm getting a check every week, for me to know that I got health care, for me to know that everything gonna be all right.
Now, I'd kind of like to get into some of the most recent stuff going on with Diddy right now, man. So, you know, I think everybody knows Diddy has been indicted. You know, he's been arrested for racketeering, sex trafficking by force, transportation to engage in prostitution. They're calling it a commercial sex enterprise. You know, what is your first thoughts when you first heard these charges and learned that he was arrested?
I mean, this been going on for a while. You know what I'm saying? This been going on for a while, but like I've said plenty of times, you gotta dig deep into what these things mean before you say a person is innocent, before you say a person is guilty. You know what I'm saying? You gotta really know what they talk about. When you hear sex trafficking and stuff, you automatically say, yo, it's bullshit. You automatically say it's innocent until you actually read what they call in sex trafficking. What they call in sex trafficking and what they call in these things, at first, you say, yo, this is stuff that people do every day. You know what I'm saying? If you holler at a girl out the country and you bring her back here, which some people don't have the money to do it, but if you're a rich person with your own jet and everything else, that's like nothing to you. So at first I basically was like, okay, that part of it is bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But like everybody else, it's so many people, man. And like I tell people, man, I haven't been around Puff since 2012. So I could speak on the way that we was handling stuff. I could speak on the way security was when we was there. I could speak on what we allowed and what we didn't allow. But we talk about a whole nother 12 years when I'm not around and I don't know how loose things could have got. You know what I'm saying? So I was shocked. Like, yo, for real? Like, for real? But I also know that there's other things that play a part in that. And I just don't know how bad those other things got compared to what they was when I was there. You know what I'm saying? When people get high, you can't say what they do and what they not do. You know what I'm saying? What they can control or how high they getting now, or what's some of the new things that got introduced in their life ever since you left. So I'll just sit there in awe, man, like everybody else.
Right, because I do believe I heard you say that, as your time hanging with him, things got worse. The progression, the drug use, and everything kind of got worse.
Yeah, it definitely got worse, man. And it's like when you get to a certain age, you know what I'm saying? Like when you hit your 40s, you thinking things are gonna slow down. You thinking like, okay, yeah, I'm with the right person because he in his 40s now, it's gonna slow down. So instead of it slowing down, you gotta remember his kids hit 21 now. Justin hit 21 now. Christian is up and coming. You know what I'm saying? Quincy. So now these are things that kind of give the average man a second life. You know what I'm saying? If your son is 21, 22, and you 41, 42, you kind of could be like, okay, I've been waiting to hang out with my sons. I've been waiting to go to the clubs. But you got to do that a certain way. You can't do it and show them some of the negative things with the industry. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of think it went backwards to him because instead of us coming in at a regular time, we started hanging out even later. We started, being around people that was getting high and doing different things. So to me, it got worse. You know what I'm saying? To a person who's a groupie or a person who loved doing that type of shit, then to them it got better. But to me, it got worse. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm looking at the individual. I'm looking at the person I was around when I first started working compared to the person that he is when I'm getting ready to leave. And at that time, I didn't know I was getting ready to leave. So I'm looking at it, instead of us progressing, we regressing. You know what I'm saying? It was a couple of times that I went with him to rehab. You know what I'm saying? A couple of times that I know he went to rehab. So I know that he's trying to get better. But being around these type of people, I'm looking and I'm like, damn, he ain't getting no better. You know what I'm saying? It's like a person crawling. When a baby crawls, then they walk and then they run. Instead of him going backwards, he was, man, the abuse was crazy.
How many times would you say he tried to get better and go to rehab? And how do you keep that out of the media?
Well, when you got money like that, it's institutions whose job is not to report it because then they know that they're not going to make money. You know what I'm saying? So they got a lot of places that you can go to that these celebrities go to. Same way the celebrities go to the hospitals when they overdose. You know what I'm saying? Or when the stuff is getting bad and they have connections to the hospital, say, yo, we getting ready to come in through the back. Yo, we getting ready such and such. And they actually lay out the red carpet for your people to come through the back, for you to get upstairs, and you never know nothing of it. So there's a lot of places that you could go to for rehab, and it never hits the media.
Okay. Now, his lawyer recently did an interview with TMZ, and he says he thinks Diddy is going to take the stand in his own defense. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, they always tell you don't take the stand. They always tell you don't take the stand because you open the door for the prosecution to not only talk about that case, but to bring up a whole lot of things that you might have been involved with. So, but when you feel that you're innocent deep down inside, you feel like can't nobody explain your story like you can explain your story. Can't nobody fight for your freedom like you could fight for your freedom. So in a thought like that, I think it's the lawyer job to definitely say that. But I really don't have no, I would just say cross your T's and dot your I's. If he's ready for the questions that they're gonna ask, if he got his attitude in control and don't mind them asking those questions and he knows what's on the line, I would say take the stand. Now, if you know that you got a lot of shit that it's gonna be talked about that you're not ready to talk about, I think you need to pass that up and don't let your ego get the best of you. And we all know he got a big ego.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. That like this sounds like his ego is kind of like I can get out of this, but I don't know, man.
You got to think about it, man. Whenever I think about Diddy, I think about John Gotti and that famous newspaper clipping that said untouchable. You know what I'm saying? I've never had the money or the experiences that he had to ever feel untouchable, but I know that everybody that I know that beat 2 or 3 cases and everything else like that, they got that I'm untouchable syndrome. And when you have that syndrome, that's when you go down because the powers that be feel like you think that you God. You think that you untouchable. And they go out their way to show you that you're not. You know what I'm saying? So you got to remember, he beat the city college stuff. He beat the gun charge. There's been accusations about him all his life that he been beaten. So I think that he thought that this was the same thing, that this was going to blow over. And because he got money, that it could get over it. But I think he's waking up to realize that this shit is for real.
Yeah, he's having trouble even bailing out. They're not gonna let him bail out, so he's stuck, man. Well, they say they placed him on suicide watch. You know, knowing Diddy, how do you think he's handling it, being trapped in a cage, going from like top of the world billionaire to now he is stuck in a cage?
Well, he's off a suicide watch now. The suicide watch that he had was just something that they give the celebrities when they first come in. And they going under so much scrutiny and, like you said, being stuck in a cage. So he's off of that now. But I do know that one time he asked me, he said, "Yo, how much time you did?" I said, "Around 12 years. He said, "Man, I couldn't do that time." You know what I'm saying? So I know for a fact that it's killing him. That it's killing him, man. When you've had money, fame, and basically been able to do what he's done, you figure this out. He had money and fame since he was around 21 years old. He's 54 right now. You know what I'm saying? So that's 30 years. So money to you is regular now. So what he's going through now gotta be driving him crazy, man. But I don't think it's enough to make him commit suicide, going back to that question you asked. I think he loves himself too much for that.
Now, one thing I've seen on the internet is they're saying that this was Cassie's plan all along. You know, first she sues him, second she takes his money, signs the NDA, but she knows that if the feds come knocking, that NDA goes out the window and it doesn't even matter.
I'm gonna tell you the truth, man. I read a lot of that too, and a lot of that might have some truth to it. But I do know that he had that lawsuit for 6 months before it went through. So I think once again it was the love of his money. I think it was the fact that he was with her when she was a young girl and he got away with so much that he thought that he was dealing with the same young girl that he could manipulate. The same young girl that he could throw a few pennies to and she'd be okay. Not realizing that it's a whole army behind her. Not realizing that people was in her ear. And I think that she just got tired of it. If I asked you for $30 million and I tell you can't none of this come out and you're worth $1 billion, why are you taking 6 months? Why do you wait till the last day? Why do you make my lawyers file this? You could have just gave me this money from the beginning and a lot of these things that he going through, he wouldn't be going through. Once again, that's that God syndrome. Once again, that's that I love my money syndrome. And once again, that's the, don't nobody matter but me. And that's the reason he's into all this.
Yeah, I bet he's got a lot of regret not just paying that $30 million.
But you got to look at it. It's not just about that $30 million. You got so many witnesses. You got so many ex-employees you got so many people that came out the woodworks. It's like David and Goliath. Everybody was scared to say something, but once Goliath finds out that he can be wounded, then everybody comes out. And a lot of that got to do with the way that you just treat people. He had to know that he treat people wrong, and that people were sitting back waiting for this. You know, I hate to say it, but you know, karma is a motherfucker.
Do you think a lot of people were just really scared to cross Diddy?
I think, yes, to answer that question, I think, yes, a lot of people were scared to cross him. I think a lot of people were scared of what he can do with their careers. When you look back and you look at the people that did have enough heart to cross him, or did have enough heart to leave him or leave his label, and look how many people were successful. I really don't know any. So when a person tells you, if you leave me, I'm going to do this, or if you leave me, I'm going to do that, and you know the music industry that they tearing down right now, literally tearing down right now, was up in that type of order before Diddy, before him. So when somebody of that power tells you that, look at Wendy Williams. Look at what happened between him and Wendy Williams. He called up the station there, and Wendy Williams got booted over to 99 over in Philadelphia just off a phone call. So you don't want that type of enemy in the industry.
Do you think he held that over Cassie when they were together?
Of course. Of course. Of course I think he held it over. But it depends on the type of strength that you have as a person yourself. You know what I'm saying? Some people say, I'm not going to let them threaten me. I'm not going to let them tell me this. I'm not going to let them tell me that. I believe in myself enough to keep going. And some people want it so bad that they don't want to take that chance of you being as powerful as you say you are and never becoming a star. You know what I'm saying? You can give Diddy 80% of the guilt, but you gotta give Cassie at least 20%.
I mean, I could definitely see Cassie, a young woman coming up, dreaming her whole life of being a singer, getting herself mixed up in this situation, and feeling like she can't get out.
You dealing with a powerful man. Like, you gotta understand, 19 years old versus, I believe, 38 years old or 37 years old. She grew up. She grew up idolizing Bad Boy. She grew up idolizing Diddy. So now you sitting there with this person that you've been idolizing in front of you, promising you things, telling you things. You seeing all of this in front of you. You living this. And I think you become addicted to it, and you don't want to lose it. And you don't want to lose that person.
Yeah, man. It's pretty wild to think about, man.
I mean, you think about it on that level, right? And then let's think about it on a security level. Let's think about it on an assistant level. Because all of these people deal with the same thing that Cassie was dealing with, except the physical abuse. You deal with the situation where if you leave, there's been times that I've left and I've went and did security someplace else. And instead of a person saying, what happened, the first person, the first thing they say is, damn, he fucked up being with Diddy. Yo, I don't want him over here. You know what I'm saying? At that particular time, because they don't know the things that you went through. If you're an assistant and you go to another job, I've heard assistants say, you know, they want to know why I left Puff. You know what I'm saying? Why I left Diddy. Or what happened between us. Or why I got fired. When it might have just been that you couldn't take enough of the bullshit that you was going through. Some of it legal, some of it illegal in their eyes. So they might have not just felt like that. But they're blackballed now from doing what they really love. Whether it's security, whether it's assistant, whether it's a chief of staff or whatever, you're blackballed now because instead of people asking you what happened, all they could think about is the big person that you was working for and what happened.
Don from Dirty Money, who is suing him for sexual assault. Did you ever meet Dirty Money or Don in them?
Yeah, I was with him. I was with him every time he was with him, except for personal time. But moving from one place to another, I was there.
One of the things she accuses him of, which I thought was kind of crazy, bro, is that she said he used to starve people for like 48 hours and then make them watch him eat.
Well, let me break that down because I've actually been through that. You know what I'm saying? So you got to remember, it's times that we're going that studio, and when he had Dirty Money, it was a tour. It was we actually was on tour. We did a European tour. We did an overseas tour. We was with Snoop Dogg, and we was all over. So they would go inside and practice choreography, and they might be in there for 36 hours. You know what I'm saying? Puff has a whole bunch of assistants running to get him food and to get him different things like that. And if he's not pleased with the work that you're doing, he's not going to give you nothing to eat. He's not going to tell you, yo, you could rest. He's not going to tell his assistants to bring you something until he's satisfied with the work that's being done.
Okay. One of the other things that she said was that she was out to dinner with Diddy and Cassie, and Diddy punched Cassie right in the stomach, right in front of Usher, Neo, and Jimmy Iovine. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, my thoughts of that, I didn't see it, you know what I'm saying, because he's not going to do that in front of certain individuals. Now, if he did it in front of Usher, Jimmy Iovine, and them, it's highly unlikely. I've never seen nothing like that in front of those people. But if they was in close quarters, who knows?
Okay, you've never seen him be that brazen with Cassie or anything like that in front of like famous people.
Nah, not in front of famous people. I seen him give that look like we gonna handle this shit when we get back to the house. But I've never seen, or I seen him say some slick shit or some fly shit or even yell. But I've never seen him get physical in front of people of that stature. But I'm gonna tell you the truth. There's so much shit coming out now that when you ask me a question like, did I see this? Did I know this? Did I say this? I honestly say no. Like even the freak off situations. You know what I'm saying? That's something new to me because, you know, when you hang out with your homeboy and, you know, you hang out with your man, you know, wifey is wifey. You know what I'm saying? So all of us, and when I say all of us, I mean all the dudes that's supposed to be quote unquote street dudes that was with security, always knew that that was a hands-off situation. That's wifey, as we call it in the street. So when all of this came out about freak-offs, we was amazed because that was wifey. That was who he lived with. That was his girl. So we didn't know none of that type shit was going on. Like, what? So we was just as surprised too.
How would he have hid those type of freak-offs from you guys if they were going on even way back then?
It's easy to hide that type of situation because Puff did a lot of hotels. When you got that type of money, you don't stay even in your own house all the time. You know what I'm saying? It might be, yo, we going to the hotel this weekend. Because you got to remember, Puff got 2 or 3 assistants running around. A lot of times he have 2 or 3 security running around. This is the security that actually live in the same house. This is the assistants that actually live in the same house. Then in the morning time, the chef actually lives in the same house. So sometimes you just want your house to yourself, or you just want to be alone with your girl. So what we would do is he would have his assistants pack his bag on a Friday and be like, yo, I'll be back Sunday. So you don't have all these people in the house. You don't have all these people running around. So nobody actually knows nothing. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the assistants, from what I'm hearing, they say the assistants is the ones that made the phone calls and the ones that actually booked these escorts and stuff like that. But assistants and security talk to a certain degree. But if he says my personal business is my personal business, then his assistants are not telling his personal business to security.
Did you ever hear any rumors around that time of Diddy being gay?
I've heard rumors before I was around Diddy. You know what I'm saying? I've heard those rumors since I was in jail. You know what I'm saying? I heard those rumors running around Harlem. I've always heard those rumors, but like I tell people, I've never actually seen nothing. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you play that to be in hate, and you say, yo, niggas just hating on it. Or sometimes you don't want to see that side of a person because you with them every day. And then sometimes you see some things that look kind of fishy. But what you got to remember is when you got street dudes around you, you going to put your chest up and your head up because you don't want them to know what you really are. And that's what it was when me and my boys was around, or you know, some of Biggie crew was around. It was like, yo, I'm not going to show no weakness. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm not going to show this, or I'm not. Yeah, we seen questionable things. You know what I'm saying? Questionable things like, damn, but when you work so much, and that's what I try to tell people, when you work so much, you kind of overlook things that might be right in front of you because you just trying to get the fuck up out of there. You just trying to get home. You just trying to live your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been times that I had to take them to the hotel and I might, hey, yo, Barnes, you got the day off. Or you off this weekend. We going to call you Sunday when it's time for us to leave. So we might be in Cali or someplace else. I'm trying to get into my own life, so I leave out. But then there's also been times where I say, yo, why this dude rushing me out? And you be nosy, you know what I'm saying? You stay out in the hallway for an extra 5 minutes. And when you get on the elevator, you ride down the elevator and you might see a Rico Suave guy get on the elevator. And you be like, yo, I want to see if he going to get off on Puff floor. And then that person turns around and gets off on the same floor. And then you peek down at the elevator and you might see him knocking on the door. And you be like, oh, shit. But then again, you don't think about the things that you're hearing now. You know what I'm saying? Because you just so happy that you off. You laugh about it underneath your breath and say, yo, they on some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I wonder what's that about. And you just leave. The thought never even comes into your mind again because you just so happy you off. You trying to run and get your shit together. So when all of this came out, that's when you sit down and you think like, oh shit, that's what that was about. Like, oh shit, he was letting them people do this and do that, but you never have no idea of it because you're not in that circle. You're not in that echelon. Like I see where they say he was sending tapes to this person, he was sending tapes to that person, or that person, I think 50 said he sent the tape back to him or something like, yo, you better check this your girl. So those type of things, we on the bottom of the pedestal. So we not in those conversations. We not in those discussions. We not privy to those type of things because, as they say it, we not on the same level as them.
Thinking about all these situations and things that you've been through, man, was there any celebrities that came through in a suspicious way that you seen and you thought something maybe?
Nah, never. Nah, I can't even sit here and say yes. Nah, never that.
It was always like unknown people that you never seen or heard before.
Yeah.
Since all this has happened, has Diddy tried to reach out to you and silence you in any way or ask you not to do any interviews or anything?
Not at all. It's certain people that you're going to reach out to. Like I said, since 2012, we haven't really had that talk, conversation, or cooling or hanging out. Even when I was with over at Ciroc, it was just, I was underneath the people at Ciroc. I wasn't underneath him. You know, he wasn't on an everyday basis. He ain't know nothing. Every once in a while, the people from Ciroc might be like, oh, it's a puff party in Vegas. We want you to go out there to handle the Ciroc stuff, because they was walking on pins and needles and didn't know him really at all to go out there. So they just didn't want to make no mistakes or nothing. So, and even then it was basically like, oh, what's up, Bonds? Yo, what's up? Because I'm here on Ciroc business. Puff is very unique of keeping a person in the box of what they get hired to do. Like when I was security, we not gonna talk about anything outside of security. When I was with Ciroc, I transitioned to, yo, ain't no sense of talking to Bonds about nothing but Ciroc. That's the type of person he is.
You know, now one of the things, they say they got like 100 witnesses and all that, man. Have you been contacted by the FBI? Have they reached out to you for anything?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you got to think about, sometimes you got to think about, let's say, 2012. People, the way that people make things is like, you might think that that time is relevant. You know what I'm saying? But 2012 to 2024 is 12 years. It might come a time where they do reach out. We still at the beginning of this investigation. We still at the beginning of this indictment. You know what I'm saying? The only one that's been locked up is him. So I'm not saying they not going to reach out. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying they haven't as of yet. That's not going to work.
What will your stance be if they do reach out to you?
My stance is always the truth. You know what I'm saying? My stance is the truth. I'm not going to lie on them, but I'm going to tell the truth. You know what I'm saying? Like the life that I live now calls for me to tell the truth, because there's so many people that's affected. It's so many women that's affected. I got kids. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is just the truth. And if you really feel that you ain't do nothing wrong, then you shouldn't have to worry about nothing.
Okay. That's what it is. Okay, now I kind of want to transition to a little bit, you know what I'm saying, just kind of hanging out, some of maybe the good times, man. One person that, is really kind of taking off these past couple of years, man, is a BMF with the documentary coming out, man. A lot of people talk about Big Meech, and I know Meech and Diddy had a good relationship, man. Did you ever party with Meech or, see them around or anything? How was that like?
Oh, I definitely partied with them when I first, you got to remember, I came around 2005, 2006, and I caught the end part of that. You know what I'm saying? Or, if I'm not mistaken, I think Wolf got killed in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. Don't hold me to that. So a lot of the things that they were doing before that, as far as the parties and the trips to Africa and things like that, all of those things took place before me. When I came in the part, it was basically, I seen Meech, you know what I'm saying? Meech knew me, I knew him. We would speak. I see him at basketball games. Different. I see him in the club and all that. I was in the studio with Jeezy and stuff when they was working. So that was definitely musically. And then it rolled over to like T was in New York a lot. You know what I'm saying? His brother T was in New York a lot. So sometimes they would hang out in New York. They had a place called Show that they would come to New York just to go to this club every Wednesday. And they would make sure that me and my man would go with them to this club. Just because we knew everybody, just because everybody respected us, it would be me and my man Big Nick. And, they was in there buying same thing that Meech and them was doing. Yo, let me get 50 bottles. Let me get 30 bottles. We here to have a good time. BMF is in the building. So we definitely partied and had a great time. To be honest with you, that was my hustle area. Because T would tell me, yo, Bonds, I'm getting ready to buy 20 bottles of Dom P. And I would actually go to the manager or something and be like, yo, listen, my man is getting ready to buy 20 bottles of Dom P. How much is the Dom P? Oh, it's $1,000 a bottle. Okay, you're gonna give those to him for $900 a bottle. All right, and you're gonna give me that $100 off the bottle, else I'm gonna take them to another club. So to me, I loved when he came in town. That was my hustle time. You know what I'm saying? There was times when I would just walk T to the car, and he would give me $1,000 just to walk him to the car. Yo, we good, we all right. All right, thanks for coming out. $1,000 just to walk him to the car. Give my man $1,000. You know, so those are good times because you're not involved with any of the business that they doing. They just getting off this plane to strictly go to this club show, party, have a good time, and then they out of here tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And you made $1,000. You hustled up $2,000 with the clubs because they're gonna always want to go out. And you could take them, they trusting you to take them to any club of your choice. So you calling that manager or you seeing that manager as soon as you get in. You want, let me see the bar manager. Because there ain't nobody buying 20 and 30 bottles in cash at one time but them. So if you want this, I know you already done marked the bottles up $800. Because a bottle of Dom P in the store might be $200. It's $1,000 inside the club. So what is it to you to take $100 off of that and give it to me? But to me, it's a lot. So I used to love it.
You know, Wolf gets killed, and that causes a falling out between Diddy and Meech.
Well, it wasn't, I'm gonna be honest with you, it wasn't really a falling out between Diddy and Meech. It was we can't be really cool with each other no more because Wolf was known as being my man. Even though Wolf wasn't down with him no more, Wolf had moved to Atlanta, and in reality, he met Meech through Wolf. He met BMF through Wolf. But everybody wants to be next to a star. You know what I'm saying? It's a bunch of people that I introduced to Puff. And even when I stopped being with him in 2012, these people still hung around him. These people still ran to the parties. These people still did and don't even speak to me no more. So, you know, everybody, they all have a little bit of groupie, I call it groupieism in them where they want to do that. So even though Wolf wasn't there, Meech and Puff was still cool. And then after Wolf died, I don't know who he was talking to. I don't know who he was on the phone with. But I know that in order for him to stay relevant in New York, he really couldn't be seen with him no more. Because New York would have been talking about him. Like, yo, what the fuck you doing around him, doing around this, doing around that? You know what I'm saying? I did hear, I remember one time when Meech was on the speakerphone, I did hear him say, I didn't shoot Wolf. Think about it, Puff. I got shot in my ass. So if I got shot in my ass, what does that mean? That means that I was running away from the situation. You know what I'm saying? So I do remember that. You know what I'm saying? But it's more of it wasn't never a Meech and Puff beef. It was more of an entourage. You know what I'm saying? Where a bunch of guys from BMF that was next to Meech might feel a certain way when we came in the club, or give Puff that look like, yeah, whatever, like, yeah, we could get down. You know what I'm saying? And Meech wasn't even here no more. You know what I'm saying? Meech was locked up. But whenever we went to Atlanta and we went to the different clubs, they felt like they had to put their chests up and whatever's whatever. It was that type of situation.
You know, I guess there was a situation where like 300 guys or something rolled up on you guys.
Well, ladies and guys, it wasn't like, it was situations where we would go in the club to party. And they still was doing their thing. 50 guys in the club, 50 bottles. You know what I'm saying? And then when Puff come in, it's not that same love because Meech is not there. T is not there. So he's not going over to that section to show love and all that. So a lot of those guys got into their feelings. And like I said, you know, they would say little shit or they would stand there and look at you. You know what I'm saying? And there was a couple of times where they beefed up. You know what I'm saying? And we might have been outnumbered. I remember one time it was just me and Puff in the club one time. You know what I'm saying? But nothing ever happened from it. You know what I'm saying? It was just I'm going to see if y'all still standing on all 10 toes. But it was never. It's like when the bosses get into a beef, but the bosses are not beefing. The entourage still wants the beef. They still want to seem like they relevant.
You know, one person I've always seen Diddy have some issues with, you know, except for when they first started, and that was Mace. Mace and Diddy had this big. Mace been calling him out forever, saying that he was, you know, stealing from him. He didn't get the credit he deserves. You know, he was locked in his contract forever, complaining about it. You know, what are your thoughts on that situation? Did you see anything or hear anything?
Well, when I came around at that time, 2006, Mace was already gone. But I'm from Harlem. You know what I'm saying? So I actually know Mace. You know what I'm saying? And my feelings are that Mace is 100% right. I've always felt that way. You know what I'm saying? I've always felt that he was 100% right. I was in the streets when Mace got signed. He was 20 years old. When you think about the deals and the things that people sign, Puff is a manipulator. He's going to find you when you down and you out. And of course you're going to agree to some of these things because you down and you're out. The same way when I got home from jail. I'm coming home from jail. Puff knew a way to manipulate me. Like, yo, he gonna want to be around me. He just came home. All he knows about me. I got money and fame. I'm gonna throw him a couple of crumbs, but a couple of crumbs seem like a half of a pie when you don't really have nothing in you in that situation. So listening to the situation between him and Mace, it's ludicrous that you still got that man publishing after all these years. It's ludicrous that you gave that man a certain amount of $1,000. I don't want to call it out whether it was 20. I think it was 20 or something Mace said. And that you still got it 20 years later when if you really respect me and I really meant something to you, after that, I would have been, after I made $1 million, I would have been like, yo, listen, now he's made that 100 times over. So of course I feel like Mace have every right to feel the way that he feel. Because if you say we brothers and you say you love me the way that you do every day, then I shouldn't have to do all this. You should call me back to the table. You should say let's renegotiate that. I shouldn't have to go through all this.
I hear that, man. Okay, do you have any stories with Mace or anything from back in the day?
Nah, we're two different age groups. He's more my little brother. I think I might have Mace by like at least like 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't have no stories with him.
Okay.
Only stories I have with him is when we was on tour, on the Bad Boy tour. You know, we would see each other, we would speak, everything all right. Him and my little brother was really, really, really cool.
Now, I believe you were around when Lil Wayne would call for advice?
Yeah, Lil Wayne and Puff was real tight. Lil Wayne used to come to Puff House in Miami all the time and stay up in the studio and work out the studio. A lot of times we would go over to Hit Factory, and Lil Wayne lived in the Hit Factory in Miami. You know what I'm saying? And one thing Puff always said was, yo, B, that dude don't go home, yo. That dude, he had his driver bring his food there. He ate his food in there. And matter of fact, I took Puff to Rikers Island to go see Lil Wayne when he was locked up. You know what I'm saying? So we actually went to Rikers Island and waited for him while he got on the bus and went over to the other side. You know what I'm saying? I remember Puff would tell his lawyers to make sure they called Lil Wayne. You know what I'm saying? His financial lawyers. Make sure you call Lil Wayne. Make sure you answer this or you answer that. I can't hear what Lil Wayne was asking him or what type of business, but he would give him advice.
Do you have any stories hanging out with Lil Wayne?
No, Lil Wayne was just working. It wasn't about no hanging out. You know what I'm saying? Getting high in the studio and just working.
Now, one thing that the internet has made a big deal about is Diddy and Meek Mill. Because there's quite a few like suspect videos out there. You know, there's a video where Diddy is calling Meek Mill daddy, and then there's a picture of them wearing the same outfit. You know, what's your thoughts on that? And did you ever hang around them or see them?
All the time. all the time, and I feel that that's 100% no truth to. That's see people when it comes to stuff like that, they of course we dealing with the internet. I really don't think that's them two back there screaming and yelling. But I was there when Diddy first met me. You know what I'm saying? We went to Philly one time, and this was when Meek first was starting, and he was in a little spot with smoke and everything. And not weed smoke, but just like one of those spots in Philly where maybe 100 people might be your audience. And Puff was like, yo, we gotta go see this dude Meek. And we went over there. And at this time, I think Meek was doing his first All-Star. And he was like, yo, I'm getting ready. I'm booked in All-Star. And Puff was like, yo, I'm proud of you, man. He was like, yo, I'm gonna go get me this Aston Martin after All-Star weekend. And that was his first Aston Martin that he had ever had. That's how early in the career it was. And after that, Puff is the type of person, man, when it comes to those artists and it comes to those that's trying to make it and those that's very popular, this is how he keeps himself relevant. He's 54 years old. He has to reinvent himself all the time. So in order for him to do that, he has to stay relevant. And he's going to stay relevant with anything that's popping. What's the next big thing popping? He's going to get in early on it. But as far as showing any type of gay tendencies with Meek or Meek showing any type of gay tendencies, I wouldn't agree with that at all.
What's with the whole calling him daddy thing?
So when you hear Puff say daddy, that's some funny shit, that the way that they can make it sound like daddy. But to be honest with you, that's him trying to be cool. That's him trying to, you know how some women say, yo, you're an old dude and you trying to be something that you're not. That's just his way of being cool. Like, yo, daddy, I think you this. Now, I'm not taking up for him or nothing. That might be some other shit in his mind. You know what I'm saying? But as far as what I see and hear him say it, like I seen him say it at the table with Fab. Like, yo, daddy, but we ain't get the party. You know what I'm saying? And Fab was like, yo, we did party. No, but we ain't party. So I don't know what the fuck going on in his mind. But when I used to hear him say things like that, I always took it as we ain't really do it the way we supposed to do it. You know what I'm saying? And I really think, to be honest with you, I think that's the drugs. You know what I'm saying? That's the drugs. You know what I'm saying? You not high. You not understanding the way other people talk when they are high. And I'm not talking about weed. I'm talking about all the other shit. So when they act funny, that shit seems alien to you because you're not on the same shit they on. So I think sometimes some of the shit he say, he don't even realize he say it or how it looked like with him saying it at a certain particular time. But then again, he might do.
Looking back on everything, did Diddy say a lot of like suspect phrases, and is this something that happened often?
I mean, at first I never paid attention to it until the daddy shit happened. And then I was like, damn, let me see. And I thought about it, like I said, when he's around us, it's a certain way that he gonna talk. It's a certain way his posture gonna be. It's a certain way that he gonna come off because I'm around niggas that's hard. You know what I'm saying? I'm around cats that's hard. So I'm not gonna show that true color. But at the same time, he wasn't never, as you say, he was never shy to be around, feminine people or feminine men. But I've never seen him act that feminine way. When I look and try to remember, was he acting some type of way? The only funny shit I used to see is when them people used to knock on the door. Otherwise than that, I didn't see no funny shit.
Now, one person that's been just relentless going at Diddy is 50 Cent. He has been, he been having a good time with this Diddy situation the whole time. Now, I know, they had some issues a long time ago, and I'm not sure exactly where it started. The rumors are it started when Mace wanted to go to G Unit and 50 took him on tour, paid for him to go on tour, and Diddy never reimbursed him the money. I don't know if that's true or not, but, do you know where this 50 Cent and Diddy issue comes from?
Nah, I really don't know where that issue is, because there's been times that it was an issue, and then we'd go out and we'll bump into them and they're cool. So I never really paid attention to that issue because it never came to a physical issue. You know what I'm saying? I believe one time, I believe 50 said one time he's at the top of his game. I'ma always take a shot at him, the person that's at the top, because that's where I want to be. And then other things started coming into play. You know what I'm saying? And things that make you feel like if you a man, I wouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? Just out of respect for you. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of shit that Diddy do that I don't agree with, that if I was in a position, a situation like 50, I would do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like having my son's mother dealing with you. To me, that's disrespectful. I don't give a fuck who you is. You know what I'm saying? So I can't come at you a different way because I'm gonna lose everything that I fought for and everything that I have if I come at you this way. But better believe if I can, I'm gonna come at you that way. No, I'm saying if you look at all the charges and you look at everything, I don't know his baby mother name, but that's his son's mother, the one that's been around Diddy for the last couple of years, that might be charged with Diddy and everything else like that. So you got to think of how he feels. But that's the one that 50 said is the sex worker and everything else like that, and they trying to charge her and everything else like that in the case. It said that they want the hotel records back from 2008 on Puff and her. So something that was something that might have been a respectful beef at one time, now since this is into play, it ain't no more respect. All the cards is off the table now. Because there's a million different women. There's a million women in the world. And 50 don't want to play that fucking game.
Yeah, she got dragged into it. I remember seeing pictures of her and Diddy holding hands.
Exactly.
At one point.
Exactly. So how is he supposed to feel? You know what I'm saying? It's just things as a man that you just don't do. It's just things that you don't do. He's not Diddy, but he's still 50 Cent. He's still relevant. He still got millions. He still has this, that, and the other. He still got to have his son. He still got to hold his son. He still got to be around his son. And to know that your baby mother has him around him, like all respect, everything is out the window then. Yeah, everything would be out the window.
Man, that's yeah, man, there's a lot of reasons for 50. 50 been going at Diddy for a long time. I think even before all that happened though, man. Diddy been one of 50 Cent's favorite targets for a really long time.
Yeah, but that's because that was an off and on situation. You know what I'm saying? It might have came from the Mace situation. It might have came from 50 Cent saying that he wrote some songs for Puff at one time. You know what I'm saying? It was definitely a off and on beef, an off and on situation that I feel like whenever 50 Cent woke up in the morning, he said, fucking, I'm gonna go at this nigga Puff. And know that you can go at him and get in his feelings. But then when y'all see each other, everything is cool. But then when you cross that line, ain't no more being cool. You know what I'm saying? Even with the Mace situation, that's all about money and that's all about business. You still didn't cross that line. But you crossed that line when you dealing with my son's mother like that. And when I say dealing with, don't get me wrong, because if somebody walked through the door and deal with my son's or daughter mother, I have all the respect for them if they looking at my son and my daughter mother respectfully. But if you trying to put my son and my daughter mother in this shit that you got going on, like they just the everyday Joe or the everyday bitch, then yeah, I'm gonna be in my feelings. You know what I'm saying? One thing that you tell your son, if you stop dealing with your wife or your girlfriend, when you meet the dude, the first thing you say is, yo, my man, I can't say nothing about that, but I'm just asking that you treat her with respect. And that's what any man says. So when you find that a person is not treating them with respect, yeah, we got a lifelong beef.
In 2013, were you already not working with Diddy at this point?
Yeah, I was going. I was with Ciroc in 2013.
Well, Diddy got into a fight with J. Cole around that time. Are you familiar with that situation?
I'm familiar with it, yeah. At the Rock Nation brunch.
Okay. Can you kind of take me through what happened or what you know about the situation?
I really don't know too much about it, except, Diddy said some slick shit. J. Cole wasn't having it, and they got into it.
Did it? I think it started over the Kendrick Lamar verse from Big Sean's Control.
Oh, I'm not even sure.
Oh, okay. Okay.
When I wasn't around Diddy, of course I still got information because I was still tight with so many people inside the office, so many tight with security that I would get certain things. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I was so glad I was gone, and I was moving so much Ciroc and dealing with my own situation with Ciroc that I ain't even have time to really know what this dude was up to, except I knew that he was crashing out. You know what I'm saying? And that he needed some help.
Right, because I believe next year is when he got into it with Drake.
Exactly.
Over the 0 to 100 beat. Did you hear anything about that situation you could share?
Of course. I mean, he gave Drake a beat like he gives anybody else a beat. You know what I'm saying? And he gives them the beat the right to. You know what I'm saying? He's never written his own stuff. You know what I'm saying? He always gives the people the beat. He had it was a beat off his last album that he gave to Jay-Z. So that's what Diddy does. Diddy, he don't hide the fact, like he say, he write rhymes, he don't write checks. He gives a person a beat. Same thing happened when off the Press Play album, and he gave a beat to Jay-Z, and Jay-Z ended up coming out with a record with the same beat. You know what I'm saying? But because Jay is who Jay is, it wasn't no real problem. I think Jay said at the beginning of the record, yo, I'm sorry, but I had to do this, But nobody else would know about it, but we would know what it was about. You know what I'm saying? And he made a dope record and killed it. If you listen to Puff album, he got a song with the same beat. You know what I'm saying? But when a person writes a multi-platinum hit, which at that same time, Jay came back and gave him a hit. He gave him I'm Coming Home. You know what I'm saying? Off the Press Play album. You know what I'm saying? So whereas he took one beat and did something, here you go. And I gave you Coming Home was one of the biggest records, if not the biggest record, off of Press Play. You know what I'm saying? So he did, Drake did the same thing. He gave him a beat, the 100 beat, and, Drake came out with a record that was a super fucking hit. And, sometimes you do things to some people out of respect that you wouldn't do to another person because you respect them. You know what I'm saying? And I can't tell you what they talked about or what happened behind the scenes. I just know when he smacked Drake that my phone started going off the hook. And my man and them was with him actually at Live nightclub when it happened. And they called me and told me everything that happened. I said, yo, your man spazzed out last night when he seen Drake. So what happened, I really don't know. I know that they got over it and that they cool now. Couldn't be me, though.
Damn. You know, going through all these situations, man, how often would you see Diddy just go off on somebody?
It's a difference. He always stood his ground, and that's one thing that I could say. He always stood his ground. You know, after that situation happened with Drake, him and Jay Prince got into it, and he stood his ground. You know, when it comes to things like that, I could never say he's soft. He always gonna step up to the plate when it comes to situations like that. But in the last couple of years, I seen it full throttle. You know, I seen it full throttle. I don't know if it was because he was getting older and he needed to feel relevant. I don't know if he was getting high too much. I don't know, but I seen it go full throttle in the last couple of years.
Do you know what happened between him and Jay Prince?
It was basically that Drake is signed to Jay Prince. So he didn't like the fact that Puff smacked him. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, he called and threatened him and stuff like that, you know, and Puff stood his ground. You know?
Did they ever run into each other?
That part I can't tell you because I haven't been around them. I just was privy to that information from somebody that was there that called me and told me about it. But if they ever seen each other, it was one time when we used to be in Houston and they was cool. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, behind doors in society, it seemed like we got a beef or seemed like this, but we've talked it out with just us. So when you on that level right there, you on the Jay Prince level, you on the Diddy level, we on the workers level, we might not never hear that situation or that conversation.
Okay.
All you know is that when you go into that town, you ready, not even knowing that they already talked and not even knowing whether it's a situation or something like that or not. Those sometimes work out good, sometimes they work out bad because sometimes we've been in places where we didn't even know we had a situation where him and somebody else might have got into an argument on the phone. And then you don't find out until you actually there. You know what I'm saying? So that's a gift and a curse.
Can get tricky.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. Each and every day you walk out your house could be your last. You never know. And that's the bad thing about Puff right there is that he don't let you in on everything that he's going through.
Now, one thing that a lot of people have been bringing up is that, you know, we all know how the feds work. You either cooperate or you're screwed. Now, we know Diddy got a really crazy legal team, but this is the feds. You know, 98% conviction rate. When they come for you, they don't play. They already got the evidence. They already got what they need. That they feel they got enough already to convict him and probably put him away for at least 15 years to maybe even life. You know, what do you think his odds of him cooperating or snitching or giving up a bigger fish to get himself out of this situation?
I mean, it depends on when you say a bigger fish. When you say a bigger fish, I mean, a bigger fish involved in what? A bigger fish involved in sex trafficking or like a bigger fish? Like, I really don't know what that means when you say like a bigger fish. Is it a good
bigger
chance?
Celebrity, a big celebrity, maybe even not a bigger celebrity, but maybe
You just say
big,
his friends, people that was involved in it with him. Is that what you asking?
It could be them, or it could be other friends that maybe he knows things about.
To be honest with you, I think that's a really slim chance because this situation is in the media. This situation is in the front. Unless the only way I can see that actually happen as if he's ready to walk away from the entertainment and walk away from being Diddy and say, I'm just going to get my money, take care of my kids, and live a great life. Then I can see it happen. But in no way, form, or fashion, let's just throw some names out there. I see Jay-Z name on there all the time. I see Usher name on there all the time. I see Justin Bieber name on there all the time. I see Ashton Kutcher name on there all the time. If you throw these people or give these people up, you must be ready to walk away from the entertainment industry and being Diddy, and just be happy that you're free and go about your way, because nobody's going to do anything with you in the business again.
But don't you think it potentially could already be over? If he goes to jail for 20 years, I mean, it's over.
If he goes to jail for 20 years, it's over. You got to remember, he's 54 now.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? He's 54 now. So at 54, it can be potentially over now anyway.
Right.
So thinking of
he
that,
doesn't really have much to lose.
You really don't have much to
freedom,
lose. But you know what, though?
As far as business-wise.
Well, business-wise, he wouldn't have much to lose, because just like it came out the other day, he owns part of Twitter. You know what I'm saying? With Elon Musk. You know what I'm saying? Who knows what other investments that you have outside of the music industry that won't even be affected by this, because people don't know that you own a part of these companies. But it would hurt your kids. It would hurt Justin. It would hurt Christian, who's trying to be a rapper. It would hurt the way that people look at them. If you don't care about the way people look at them, and you got something worked out for them where they don't need the people neither, then I can see it happening. You know what I'm saying? I can see it happening, you know. And it might be already happening. We don't know. You know, it's been rumors that he's been working with the feds to a certain degree for years and years and years. You know what I'm saying? We don't know that for sure, but that's been the rumors for years and years. And then they say, well, something must have happened for them to flip on him like this. And we don't know. Like we said, like I always tell people, and I'm not afraid to say, yo, that's above my pay grade, because I don't know these conversations and discussions that he's having behind closed doors. One thing Diddy does is, like I told you before, he keeps everybody in a box. If you on the executive staff, then there's certain things you know. You don't know nothing about the security. If you're on security, you don't know nothing about the business that the executive staff is doing. Even if you do know something and you try to talk about it and stuff, it's like a deaf ear, because that's not what you're supposed to be doing or what you're supposed to be talking about. So I don't know who his friends are. Like, people ask me that. I could tell you about some street friends, but I can't tell you who he does business with, who he does this, that, and the other with, because I'm not privy to that information.
Now, you know, one of the cases and things that Diddy has long been associated with, and that was the whole Tupac situation. What are your thoughts on the Tupac situation?
I don't have no real thoughts on the Tupac situation, because that was before my time. But from what I hear, that it was a guy named Eric Von Zip that could have either brought him up or took him down. But we'll never know that, because he's gone now. God bless the dead.
Okay. Now, Cassie drops this lawsuit. Everybody goes crazy, man. And you're actually mentioned in this lawsuit.
Right.
Did you have a chance to read over the lawsuit?
Yeah.
Did you see any lies or anything that wasn't accurate?
Well, I could only go up until my time. I can't go until anything that she said after my time. But anything that she said up until my time, including that situation, I remember very well. I was hoping that in the time that I was gone, from 2012 on, I was hoping that he would get better. You know, one of the reasons I left was because of that. Because I was tired of arguing, because it was coming a time where me and him was arguing. And the reason we was arguing was because I was unhappy. Because, you know, I thought, like I said, things were going to go backwards. And instead of that, I'm staying out more. Instead of that, you're getting more violent. Instead of that, you're getting more higher. And those are the things that I wanted to get away from. So when it comes to those type of things, I came up with the diabetes. Well, I really have diabetes, but I came up with the fact that the doctor told me I couldn't be traveling and all this stuff like that, because that was the only out that I could find in order to move over to Ciroc. So everything that she said up until the time that I left was accurate.
Okay, so I want to kind of take it back a little bit and kind of go over your whole time with Diddy. Now, you joined Diddy in 2003, and then you moved into more of a serious situation. I think you said around 2006.
Right.
You know, but in 2005, there was a situation that happened with Kim Porter.
Right.
And I believe, was that your first time ever seeing any type of violence like that with Diddy, or not even seeing it, but you know what I'm saying, seeing her nose taped up?
Well, yeah, seeing her nose taped up was the first time I seen it. But that was the first time to that degree. But I had seen them arguing and everything a lot of times. See, one thing about Puff is he's not going, unless he loses it, that's when you'll see it. Otherwise than that, it'll be behind a closed door. It'll be in a bedroom. It'll be things of that nature. Unless it's something that's truly can't be held off and he just lose it. He's going to do a great job of nobody seeing it. It's times I heard him and Kim arguing. I might have heard something break. I might have seen a car shaking and stuff like that. But for him to actually do it in front of me, no.
What was your first thoughts when you seen her have her nose taped up like that?
That he did it. That was my first thought when they told me, when I went and picked them up from off of the yacht, and they said that she hit her nose on the table. I knew she didn't hit her nose on the table. That was just my gut feeling until they started all the whispers and everything. Because one thing for sure, two things for certain, when you own your own business and you have an office with employees and most of them are women, they're going to start talking.
Man, you know, I mean, at this point, you know, how are you feeling about your job? You know, you see that, you know, I'm sure you didn't feel good about the situation. Are you feeling like, man, I need to get, this ain't for me? You know, like, what's your mindset at that point in time?
My mindset at that time was the beginning. So it was like I said, I was manipulated. I was with Puff Daddy. All the things that other people could feel, I could feel too. And what goes on is that you're happy that you got a job. You're making good money at this job. People are looking up to you at this job. So it's everything that comes into it. But at the same time, people don't know what you go through at this job. You know what I'm saying? It's plenty of times where if I could find something else that was paying me that way, I would have been left. You know what I'm saying? Because you end up being, it was a surprise because it's somebody that you looked up to. You understand? And then you find that they have all these flaws. Even though, you know, everybody is human and they have their own flaws, you look at it and say, this person is so successful, they have more flaws than I have. You know what I'm saying? And it became a time where I was trying to get away from there, but I just had to wait for the right time in order to get away from there.
Okay. Now, was that the only time you seen anything between Kim and Diddy?
Well, I used to see them argue. I used to see them go through their shit. Me and him used to sit in front of our house to 6 a.m. sometime. If he thought that she was in there with a guy or something like that, we'd just be sitting in the car to 6 in the morning, and you know, what can you say? You're like, yo, I want to go. But you like, you getting paid, and you're like, yo, you gotta see it, man. I want to see. I know she in there with somebody. You know, little shit like that make you realize he's a very insecure person at the end of the day. Even everything that you have, if you're insecure, you're insecure. And he was a very insecure person when it came to other men.
Yeah, I interviewed Mark Curry. Do you know Mark Curry?
Very well.
I interviewed him, and he would tell me that Diddy would get jealous of him getting women, and there were even times where like he hooked up with a woman, and Diddy had that woman like move to another hotel or away from them, you know. And Diddy didn't quite understand how he was able to get women when he wasn't this big, you know, rich, famous guy.
When we was on tour, we went to Jamaica, and he had this one girl that used to be she used to be a singer, and a dancer. She used to be a part, you know, the group dancer thing, and then he had the singers too. But the girl was bad. She was a dancer, and when we got back, we flew into Jamaica, and she wanted to hang out with me and go to the mall and all of this kind of stuff. And I ain't gonna lie, I did have a little fling thing going on with her, but that was between me and her. And nobody actually knew nothing about it, because, you know, I ain't kiss and tell all the time. So we get back, and he was like, yo, Mark, have you slept with her? And then I was like, I don't want to lie and say no, because then I'm not going to seem like a man. So I was like, yeah, I slept with her. And he said, how did you sleep with her? I said, I slept with her because she liked me and all of that. So then after that, he moved the girl to another hotel. He made sure that she didn't hang around nobody on like the B part of the team. He was A team. He rode with the A bus. I was on the B bus. I rode with just the artists and the singers and some dancers. His bus is Puff, his manager, and whatever else might be on his bus. He made sure she didn't get back on that bus no more.
Oh, that's definitely true. We've been through that situation. You know, I got a celebrity friend one time, and he was like, yo, how did you do that? And I looked at him, and I'm like, yo, what are you talking about? He's like, yo, how you got her? And I said, yo, I'm from Harlem, man. I said, yo, I got game, yo. See, what you got to realize is if you're a person that never really got girls until you got money, they don't know how to talk. They don't know how to fish without no fish. You know what I'm saying? So you know, I know how to talk. I was born and raised in the streets of Harlem. You know what I'm saying? So I got a gift for game. So sometimes Diddy is amused by things like that because he don't have that game. He just got money, but he's never had no game. And it's times like that. It's just a lot of people think that a person can't be jealous of you because they have more money than you. They have more cars than you. They have more fame than you. But they could be jealous of the way that people take to you. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Diddy has a lot of inside of him. And that's why if it's a person like that, he'll never let that person rise, because he knows that that person has the capability to rise higher than him if they're just given that chance. So Mark Curry kind of hit it on the button.
Okay, well, I guess there was an argument, and you seen some rumbling in the car between Diddy and Kim?
Yeah.
At one point, you know, can you kind of take me through that a little bit?
I think we pulled up at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And he says, yo, you know, he tells me and the driver to get out the car. You know, whenever he wants to talk or whenever he wants to do something that's outside of the ordinary, we get out the car. And when we get out the car, you know, him and Kim is going back and forth, and I start seeing the car rumbling. So I snatched the door open. I said, yo, what are you doing, man? We right in front of the Beverly Hills Hotel. And he said, yo, shut the door, shut the door. So I shut the door, but he did get out. And then Kim looked at him and said, yo, you get ahead. She fixed her hair. And she said, yo, you keep it up. She said, I'm going to put a mark on your face, and I want to see you explain that to paparazzi in the morning. And he just fixed his suit, and then she just went in the hotel. Like those type of things, if I see it, or if I can do something about it, I'm going to do something about it. If I see it, I'm going to jump into it. You know, him and Cassie, I got in the middle. Him and the chef, I got in the middle. And those things kind of started hurting our relationship because he starts to figure, yo, you my security or you my man? Like, what are you doing? But I've always had in the back of my mind that is being your security, stopping you from hitting a woman or stopping you from doing something that could possibly cost you everything that you have, like what he going through now. So I feel like I'm not only helping them out, I'm helping you out.
Facts. Definitely pulling Diddy off of a woman is definitely helping Diddy. Big time.
Definitely.
I guess him and Cassie meet around 2007. Do you know how they met?
2006.
2006.
Mm-hmm. 2006, 2007. I think it was his 40th. So let's see. I think it was his 40th or 45th birthday. He's 54 now, so it had to be his 40th. She had a song out called "Me and You," and he liked her, so he told the producer that was signed to him, Slam. He told him to set up a studio session at the house in Miami. So he set that up, and her and what's his name? Aaron Leslie?
Ryan
Leslie. Ryan Leslie came out to the house, and they stayed for a week and worked on the single, worked on the record, and then he told Slam, set up another session 2 weeks later. He said, but this time don't invite Ryan. And it was off to the races ever since then. It was a slow drag. It was all work until he broke her. Once he broke her, the work slowed down and it became a relationship.
Now, in 2006, Cassie signs a 10-album deal with Bad Boy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Unheard of.
That's a lot of albums.
Unheard of. Make sure she stay around.
But she does go number 4 on Billboard with her first album. So it does do good. It's successful. Now, I guess in 2007, is he being with Cassie and Kim at the same time?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in 2007, Kim gets pregnant? And then he also has a daughter with another woman?
Yeah.
Now, what was that? What kind of problems did that cause?
That didn't cause too much of a problem. He's Diddy. You know what I'm saying? He's Diddy. You know, that caused an internal problem between Kim and Sarah because they were friends before that. So it just caused an internal problem because they were friends.
Okay. Now, I seen that, like, Diddy wouldn't allow Cassie to have anything in her name. Cars or anything. Shows. Like, he was like, he started running her whole life.
He started managing her, yeah. I would even take her on shows because I was doing her security when she had to go on shows. And I used to book a lot of shows, and I had to talk to him about the booking. And if he felt it wasn't enough money, or if he felt he didn't want her around, he wouldn't let her do the show.
Now, I think I seen you touch on this, that you might have thought Diddy was like kind of hating on Cassie or having her turn down gigs she probably should have been taking.
Yeah, of course. Of course. It was gigs that he would say, yo, she's supposed to get $25,000 for. But if you sat back and thought about it, she only had that one single that was banned. So she couldn't get the relationship with these promoters that she needed to get. Like, okay, I'll do it for you $10,000 this time. You know what I'm saying? You know, as you got to do in this game. But when I come back around or when my album comes out, you know, he was just controlling everything from A to Z.
Now, do you think she was okay with that at that time?
No, I don't think she was okay with it. I think she dealt with it because she wanted the album to come out. I think she dealt with it because she didn't want him to be against her. I think she dealt with it because she didn't want him to blackball him. And at the same time that he's doing all this, he's also giving her lavish gifts at the same time. But I know for a fact that she wasn't happy with it. She just didn't know what to do with it.
Damn. Okay, now with Cassie, do you remember like the first time you seen them have like a big argument or like them having like a fight or anything like that?
I don't really remember. You know, they always argued and went back and forth with it. But the first time that I actually seen him put hands on her was that time that she's talking about that I got in between. And that was in 2009.
Can you take me through that?
That was just basically her talking, if I'm not mistaken. She was talking to Benny, I forgot his last name. They used to manage Will Smith. He managed Jennifer Lopez. And he might have managed Puff at one time or another. But it was at a party, and she was talking to him. And Puff just lost it. Like, what the fuck is you talking to? Or it might have been Johnny from Danny D. Kane. I think it was Johnny from Danny D. Kane that was managing Danny D. Kane. And he just lost it. Like, what are you talking to him for? What the fuck? And that's when he just grabbed her and he punched her and he threw her on the floor and I got in between it. Like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? You know, we right outside this party. It's 1 million people out here. Like, what the fuck is going on? And, you know, I had to get in between him and grab him. He was mad at me, but it was what it was. Not on my time, not on my watch.
Well, and then they get in the car and they start fighting even more?
Yeah, they started arguing and fighting in the car. She punched him in the face. You know what I'm saying? And he started trying to hit her, but when he was trying to hit her, the window came down. And people were in the car next to us, and they said, oh, shit, that's Diddy. So I'm trying to drive, I'm trying to keep him in the front, and I'm trying to roll up the window at the same time. You know what I'm saying? And I was able to diffuse that situation. And then we went back to Beverly Hills to where we were staying at.
Now this situation happens, and this is probably, I mean, this is a pretty big situation, man. He even hit her in public. You know, how are you feeling after you see this?
Well, at that particular time, my adrenaline was going, man. I just said, yo, y'all fucked up. You know, at that particular time, I said, yo, y'all are fucked up. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until I got back into my room that night where I just was like, yo, that was fucking crazy, yo. Like, that was bananas, yo. Yo, this nigga's crazy. Like, that's all I kept saying to myself was like, yo, this nigga's crazy. And then I was glad that I was there. Because I don't know if somebody else would have stepped up. I don't know if somebody else would have grabbed him. I don't know if somebody else would have got in between. I don't know if she would have hit her head on the sidewalk. I was just thankful I was there. And when I seen him the next morning, I just was like, yo, that was crazy last night. And, you know, he kind of looked at me. When things like that happen, Puff is the type that won't look you straight in your face for a couple of days because he knows what he did was wrong. But I kind of got over it once they got cool back again. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of pushed it to a, yo, that shit happens in a relationship type thing. You know what I'm saying? Until I noticed that it was a pattern.
Were you the only one that actually had the balls to kind of stand up to Diddy and tell him anything?
No, I'm not going to say that. But I will say I was basically the only one that would do it in front of people. You know what I'm saying? But I wouldn't say I was the only one.
Okay. Well, I guess he sends her to a hotel, and she has to stay at a hotel for days while she heals up?
Yeah.
Or is that from a different situation?
Well, that's the same situation, but I didn't know that they had continued to get into it once they got back. And he called me over the loudspeaker, and he said, yo, take Cassie to the hotel. We already called and got her a room or whatever. And I took her over to the hotel, and then I would just check on her, you know, asked if she needed something, see if she wanted some smoke or something like that. And then that's when she unbuttoned her shirt and she showed me her chest. And she had 2 black and blue marks on her chest. And I was like, damn, you all right? And she was like, I'm all right. She stayed there for a week. And then I didn't see her for about 2 weeks. And then one day she just popped back up at the house. And it was like nothing never happened.
Damn. Okay, so, you guys go back to work, things start moving, does Diddy, try to do anything to repair the situation after that, or is it just back to normal?
Well, whenever a situation happened like that, Cassie would go shopping. You know what I'm saying? And come back with 1,000,000 bags. I guess that was his way of apologizing to her. You start to learn and know what a person likes and what position or situation you have them in. You know what I'm saying? By being able to do this. And she would just go shopping, or she might go on a trip with her girlfriend somewhere like Fiji or someplace like that,
What do you think was like the biggest gift that Diddy ever gave her?
I would say a $100,000 apartment in Manhattan.
$100,000 a month?
I don't know how much this apartment cost a month. I know it was in a new building, and it was a very expensive apartment. I think that was the biggest gift that I've seen her give her.
Okay. Was this after a fight or anything, or just because?
I would say just because you put up with my bullshit all these years.
So I guess there was another situation, after another party in NY with Jay-Z.
Yeah, I wasn't there for that.
Okay, that's the one they talked about. Okay, she talked about that in the lawsuit, though. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't there for that. I tell you, when we got back to New York, I was off because I handled a lot of things out of town, so I wasn't there for that.
Okay, and what was the next situation you seen between Diddy and Cassie?
I didn't. I didn't see no other situation between them because 2010 I was out for a couple of months in a diabetic coma. Then I came back 2011, and then the end of 2011 I was back in the hospital for diabetes, and then that's when I left and went over to Ciroc. So I was never there for anything else. I just would hear about certain things, but I wasn't actually there for.
Okay. Now, did you ever see her being the aggressor? Like, did you ever see them argue and then she just takes off on him? Or was he always like the one?
Well, after I broke up their fights a couple of times, Diddy would point out to me when she was being aggressive. You know what I'm saying? Just to show me that it wasn't always him. So it's been times where he might be like, yo, Bonds. And I'll be like, yo, what's up? He'd be like, yo, you see her, right? And I'll be like, all right, come on, Puff, let's just go for a walk. And me and him might go for a walk. And then she run up behind him and kick him in the nuts or something like that. He'd be like, yo, you see, you always getting mad at me, but you don't see this side. Little shit like that. But my thing has always been her kick, her hit, her smack ain't gonna hurt nothing or compare to what you doing. She's a $110 with water.
Now, I believe at one point Cassie wants to marry Puff, but Puff don't want to marry Cassie. Were you around during that time?
Yeah, I was around. I don't know if I was around at that conversation, but I was around in conversations like that. You know what I'm saying? And it was even conversations me and Puff would have where he was like, this shit is coming to an end. In 2011, he told me, he said it's either going to have to be Kim or Cassie. what you think I should do, yo? And I was like, I don't know. I said, I think you should go with Kim. And the only reason I said that was because she had the kids. And I said, oh man, she got 4 kids, man. But I said, at the end of the day, you got to go with who make you happy. You know what I'm saying? And he said, yeah, you're right. And his dumb ass pocket dialed Cassie. And I remember after that conversation, Cassie saw me like a week later and she said, Bonds, you know I heard you, right? I said, you heard what? I heard that conversation that you and Puff had and you said, take him. But it's all right. It's all right. And she said, I know why you said it. You know what I'm saying? So, but his thing is, I would never get married. He said, I'm not giving 50% of nothing I got to nobody. And that's how he's always felt.
Now, with all this going on, everybody pretty much assumes it's Cassie they're talking about, who Diddy had this relationship with. They don't say her name in the indictment, but, I mean, who else? There's pretty much nobody else it could be. You know, now, at some point, if it does go to trial, if Diddy doesn't cooperate or strike a deal, it's going to have to go to trial. You know, and she's going to have to testify. You know, she's going to have to tell all from beginning to end, and it probably would be weeks of her testimony on the stand, you know. Do you think that's something that she would do or want to do, or, you know, how do you see that playing out?
She's already done it. She done it the moment she dropped the lawsuit. She done it, you know. Now, I think at this particular point in time, she's not going to have no choice but to do it. Because if you're smart and you're Diddy lawyers, you're going to try to make her part of it and say that she was here for 10 years. Why did she do this? Why did she do that? So I think the only way that she could get around it is by testifying. Without a doubt.
With a big trial like this, I mean, this would be probably the biggest trial since OJ. And would probably even be bigger than OJ.
Bigger than OJ. Exactly.
You know, knowing Puff and all the things the people are going to be saying about him on the stand, you know, which I don't think any human would want to, their family, their friends, everybody he loves, they're going to hear all these stories on the stand, not on the internet where the internet don't have no credibility, but they're going to hear it on the stand where it's extremely credible. You know, how do you think that is going to play out with Diddy? And, you know, do you think he'll try to avoid a trial at any cost?
I think when he sees the serious nature of this, the serious nature of it and the outcome of it, I definitely think that he would try to avoid a trial. But it's all about whether the prosecutor even comes with a deal. And what is the deal? I think that's going to play a part of it. He's 54 years old. Anything over 10 years is life-shattering. But it all depends on whether you care about just yourself at this particular time, or if you care about what your kids are gonna go through with that question that you just asked. You know what I'm saying? Or if you feel like my kids is gonna be straight regardless because I've planned for my kids to be okay. And if I was him, I would go off in the sunset somewhere and enjoy my money and not want to be in the limelight anymore. We see what the limelight costs you. You know what I mean? We haven't seen anybody stand next to him. Anybody speak up for him. Anybody in these celebrity rooms or in that stature say, I got your back. So when those type of situations happen, then other thoughts are able to creep in your mind. Like that, oh, they don't give a fuck about me. Oh, they was part of this with me. So it all depends on what his lawyers are able to do and what he really feels deep inside.
It's gonna be one nasty trial if it goes to trial. That's for sure. Cassie on the stand telling all. Oof.
Yeah,
I don't know if he could beat that, man.
You got to remember, it's that's just one facet of this trial.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's just one facet. You got so many other different witnesses. This is a person that ran a Fortune 500 company. And you have a lot of people that are Fortune 500 employees that went to Yale, that went to Harvard, that went to Howard, that went to, prestigious schools and thought that this was an ideal job, a great job, who found themselves listening to what their quote unquote boss said to do, transferring money that their boss said to transfer, doing these different type of things that they thought was all okay and all right, that the feds are going to bring out and say, no, it wasn't okay. It wasn't all right. It was to cover for this. It was to do this, that, and the other. And so there's going to be quite some people because they didn't sign up for that. So in reality, when it comes at them and the feds say, yo, you got possible do some time or you can sit here and talk to us, guarantee they're going to talk to them because they didn't sign up for this. So it is so to take a plea would be in his best interest if you're not going to work with them.
In the initial lawsuit that Cassie filed, she mentions a situation with Suge. And I believe you were around during that time. Can you take me through what happened?
I was around during that time, but I was off that day. But I was around, you know what I'm saying? And I came to work. I think I flew into LA the next day. And they told me what happened. Yo, we seen Suge last night. So what happened? Yo, we was at Mel's Diner. That's the name of it. That's about 5 minutes from Puff House. That's on Sunset. And they said we was going to get Puff some burgers. And when we opened up the door, my man D-Rock opened up his door and Suge opened up his door at the same time. So D-Rock was Biggie Man. So Suge knew exactly who he was. So Suge looked at him and said, what the fuck you doing out here? And he looked at Suge and said, what the fuck you think I'm doing out here? I'm working. You know what I'm saying? And next thing you know, he said, Suge put his hand around his man and it was 20 or 30 people that came to the spot. But he also said that Puff assistant slid off and called Puff and told him that they was in trouble at the Mel's Diner and that Puff came and picked them up. Now, in her lawsuit, she talks about guns and everything. I don't really know about that, but I know for a fact that he came and picked them up from Mel's Diner. But you can't see inside the truck because the truck is all blacked out. And he said some woman rode up next to them in a convertible Rolls Royce and said, yo, what's up? But they knew 9 out of 10 that them girls was Suge girls and they was trying to see who came and picked them up. And if it was Puff picking them up, it would have been a problem. But I was actually off. I came to work the next day and they told me the story.
Did Diddy and Suge have a conversation that night?
Not at all. Not at all. The only conversation, like Suge was the type of person that would just pop up. It was like he knew everybody and knew everything. So he would pop up at the BMI Awards. He would pop up everywhere. You know, that was his thing, popping up, letting it be known that he could see you. Whether it was the Beverly Hills Hotel at dinner, whether it was the BMI Awards, or whether it was just something going on, he always popped up. He had his ear to the streets. So it was always people that would call him and tell him, you know, where Diddy was at, you know?
Well, I guess there was a situation where, you know, Puff kind of ran up on Suge and Suge was like, nah, everything, that shit's old or something.
Well, I wouldn't say he ran up on him. We was at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And I was sitting outside in the car with my earpiece on, and my man was inside with Puff. And I seen Suge pull up, and I told him, I said, yo, big man about to come in. Because everybody ate there. Everybody, that's a known restaurant inside the Beverly Hills Hotel. So everybody ate there. So Suge came in, and I told my man through the microphone, yo, he coming in right now. So when Puff seen him come in the restaurant, Puff walked over there and said, yo, what's up? He said, what's up? And Puff did stand his ground. He said, yo, we ain't got no problem, right? He said, nah, we don't have no problems. He said, so why I keep hearing you saying we got a problem, or why somebody calling me saying we got a problem? Or I think, if I'm not mistaken, Suge did an interview or something like that. And he said, yo, he just told him, he said, regardless of what go on, or regardless of what you say, when we leave each other, we know that we both was here and that we don't have a problem. And Suge told him something like, yo, I was looking for you because, I'm putting together this football team, and, we want y'all to be a part of it as far as endorsing it. And he was like, let me get your number. And Puff was like, nah, I'm not going to give you my number, but I'm going to give you the office number. And he gave Suge the office number. And he said, call Lear, and then we'll talk to somebody at the office about it, and then they'll get back to me. See, people got the misconception that Suge and Puff always was enemies. They wasn't always enemies. They was friends at one time. You know what I'm saying? Actually real friends. So, even now I listen to Suge say different things, but he always says, I don't wish that on nobody. I don't wish them to be in jail. I don't wish that on the other. So it was a love and hate relationship that got out of hand and went too far. So that goes back to your question of, do I think he had anything to do with Tupac murder? And to answer that question, I would say no. Simply because in a funny way, he idolized Tupac. In a funny way, he loved Tupac music. He loved Tupac movies and different things like that. So in order to have that type of situation go down, I feel like Puff is too much of a private person to deal with so many people in a situation like that. That's just my answer.
Okay. Now, one thing that did drop, not too long ago was this horrific video of Diddy, chasing Cassie down and beating her up in front of the elevator. And, it was really, really bad video, man. What did you think when you first seen that?
Man, the first thing that I thought of was I felt sorry for Cassie. Like, I really, because I know her, because I look at her like a daughter. I not only looked at that video, it took me back to everything that happened back in 2009. Then it took me back to a video that he had put up when she was underneath the covers, and they were on vacation or something, and he was like, look at her, look at you now, look at you now. And everybody thought that that was a fun moment that they was having. But after seeing that video, nobody knew if that was a fun moment or if that was a tragic moment. But I know watching that video made me think of my daughters. It made me think of every woman in this world, like, it's not worth it. Like, whether you want to be a star, I felt like, yo, he was an animal. Like, that's all I had to do. And I'm a domestic violence advocate, right? After I seen that video, I went to school. I went to classes to get certified because I said a lot of women need help. And a lot of men need help too. But when I seen that video, I was just like, I said, it's over. I felt like it was over for him after I seen that video. Like, yeah, I was lost. I'm at loss for words with it.
Well, they say that he ended up paying $50,000 to buy this footage from the hotel. Now, do you think that this is something, Puff had his ego? He felt like he's a billionaire. I mean, he could just make anything go away with money.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I definitely think that. And my answer to that was that without that video, a lot of people was starting to doubt the things that she said. So I felt like either she or even the feds needed to win back popular, what you call it, needed to win the people back and show them that he was a liar, show him what type of animal was. And I actually think that they released it. That might have been a video that they found in the raid. You know what I'm saying? And then released it to get back the people. Somebody released it, and they released it at a time when he was actually starting to win some people back.
Yeah, when, that video to me gave credibility to her lawsuit.
Of course.
I mean, that's kind of what I took from that video. Like, okay, this is, okay. We see this, what I'm saying? We see women accuse men of things, and then we find out she's lying. So, from the outside looking in, you're kind of trying not to just judge the situation based on your emotions, and how you feel. Because whenever you hear about a woman getting beat up, most men are, very upset and mad, but when you see this video, it's like, okay, wow. Okay, this
yeah, because
it's really
one
bad.
thing to hear about it, and it's another thing to see it.
Exactly.
So you can't believe nothing that comes out of that person's mouth again. Everything you say is down the drain. So his credibility went down the drain. He made a lawsuit stronger. And I feel that that's when the Fed said, okay, we're going to change this because that's something visual.
Now, we've heard, rumors of these freak-offs being videotaped. And I think I seen or heard you mention that he had a special person that just filmed everything and carried a bag around.
No, I never said he had a special person to film everything. I said he had his assistants carry his personal bags around. And when I was there, he had an assistant named Tommy that would carry his Louis Vuitton bag around. And back in those days, it was a camcorder. So it was one of them little small hand camcorders with the little tapes. But he didn't actually tape them. His job was just to carry that bag around. But nobody knew what was on them videotapes. Whether it was, because at that time people was videotaping everything. But this was his personal camcorder. And to be honest with you, our mind never went to the point of freak-offs. So we actually thought this was his personal videos that he was doing, whatever the fuck shit he was doing. But we didn't think it was freak-offs and that it was of men and all type of other shit like that. It was just like everybody got their job. And along with his personal stuff was his job to carry his medication, to carry, the only thing we carried as security was the money. You know what I'm saying? So we never even really thought about it until all of this freak-off shit came back. And then it rang in my mind like, oh shit, this must be them tapes that Tommy was carrying at that particular time.
Okay, well, he has this bag. How long does he have this bag? How much footage do you think you seen him get, or maybe think that he got during your guys' time working together?
I have no idea. That bag was with him every day, just like the regular bag with all his medication and stuff like that. So when he did freak-offs, how he did freak-offs, or what time, or We would never know that. So I can't say how much footage he had in that bag.
But that bag was around every day for 10 years.
Now, that bag was that. Well, I can't say it was every day for saying because I can't tell what exactly that bag was there every day. I know that that was a bag that when Tommy had it, he had that bag. If he ain't had that bag, then it was in a safe or it was with Mr. Combs.
Do you think Diddy would have been smart enough to get rid of this stuff before the feds raided his house?
He didn't know the feds was gonna raid his house, evidently. Or he didn't like sometimes it's like you think you're invincible. You have that God syndrome. You think nothing's gonna happen. So or if they raid it, they're gonna raid it a certain type of way and they're not gonna come and knock down everything and find tunnels and do this, that, and the other without somebody that he thought would be able to call him to give him a heads up. Evidently, they kept this one so hush-hush because they knew that it was somebody that would give them a heads up. These guys didn't even know where they were going.
Well, I seen that Diddy called you or you called Diddy a day before Cassie filed the lawsuit?
Yeah, I called him a day before, but I called him because I needed some money for my son's lawyer. So I was calling him to ask him could he help me out with my son's lawyer because we was down to the appeal situation. And he told me, he said, nah, I don't have it. I don't have the 20,000. I don't have it. But I'm going through something right now. And then he knew that I was in the lawsuit, but I never knew I was in the lawsuit because I never knew about the lawsuit. So he said, but I may need your help with something. So the only thing I knew was that he was going back and forth with Diageo. So Diageo was actually who I was working for with Ciroc. So I'm thinking, okay, he's about to settle this lawsuit, and then we're going to go ahead and he's going to need my help with Ciroc or De Leon. When I woke up the next morning, there was a lot of texts and DMs on my phone. And they said, yo, you know you in the lawsuit. What lawsuit? Cassie suing Diddy. I said, what? So I put two and two together. And I said, he must have was thinking about fighting this case. And that's why he said, I may need your help. Because he knew that she had put my name in that case. And that was the last time that I spoke to him.
Now, in the last couple months, maybe since one of your other recent interviews, have you learned anything new? Like, what are some things that you learned that you didn't know was going on back then?
Freak-offs. I didn't know about freak-offs. Period. And I actually don't watch what goes on with him every day. I try to stay away from it because every time my picture or something about me comes up, someone says it to me, and I vowed not to make his life my life. It had already took enough of my life out. So I vowed not to make it my life.
Being Diddy's bodyguard, was there any other people, any other famous people that you ever had to bodyguard for? Or you might have been called on maybe on a night off or anything?
I bodyguarded for Loon, which I regularly bodyguarded. I bodyguarded for at this particular time, I bodyguarded for D-Mac, which was game manager at the beginning when I first was bodyguarding. They had a situation with Fat Joe, and I bodyguarded him that night.
Do you know what happened between Game and Fat Joe? Do you know about that situation?
I don't know what happened. I think it was the whole 50 Cent thing, and Game got caught up in between it because he was G-Unit at that particular time. So I think it was more of a thing where Mac had came to New York right in the middle of it, and Game was performing, and Joe is in New York. You know what I'm saying? So he just asked me to go with D-Mac there just to make sure, because me and Joe was pretty cool. So he was like, yo, can you just go and make sure that he's okay?
Okay. Now, do you have any stories hanging out with Fat Joe? I interviewed Fat Joe too, man. Really cool
Nah.
dude.
Nah, I don't have no stories hanging out with Joe. He always just been a cool dude. Always laughing, always talking, you know, always telling me about his stories, about something that might have happened in his life that's funny. But we never actually hung out.
Oh, okay. Were there any guys that you actually, became friends with besides Diddy? Any celebs?
Nah, I never really was on that. To me, it's like, I'm cool with everybody, but we're not friends. Me and French is cool. Me and Meek is cool. We're cool, but I don't consider any of them my friends. My friends is who I keep my circle tight, and I have the same friends. I find out that celebrities don't really believe in friendship. So I'm not friends with them.
What do you mean by that? Celebrities don't really believe in friendship.
I mean, unless you have what they have, there's no respect, there's no loyalty there. If you didn't grow up with them or anything else like that, what are we friends for? I find that a lot of them, and I'm not saying all of them, base it on what you can do for them and what you have. So what would somebody like me be friends with them? Friend is a deep word. We're associates, but we're not friends.
I think you said that Diddy had told you he doesn't know how to be a friend.
Yeah, that was something he told me a long time ago. He told me and my man Paulie that one day, because he never really understood how we would always go to the door to get some of the friends inside parties and different things like that. And he would be like, yo, you know how you and Paul is with the guys that y'all grew up with in the hood and all that? He said, I don't have no friends. All I got is my women. And it's funny that he said that, because that's the same thing that's taking him down now, the woman.
Why do you think Diddy didn't have any real friends?
He didn't know how to be a friend. His friend is his money. Point blank, simple. His friends is his money. Period.
Damn. Was he depressed over these things at all?
Didn't care nothing about it. He don't want friends. You gotta understand. When you got friends and they're not on the same level that you are, they end up asking you for things. You know what I'm saying? They end up needing you for things, and he don't want to be needed, or he don't want people to ask him for nothing. He want it all to himself. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think he has friends. So what happens is you end up calling these people your friend because they have the same amount of money for you, or at least have enough money that they don't need you. And then in situations like this where you find out that they're not your friends. So I don't think it ever bothered him before this.
So you think a lot of people turned their back on Diddy, even though they're not speaking out, but you think even behind closed doors that a lot of people have cut Diddy off?
I don't know if they would say it, you know what I'm saying? But I really think that a lot of people are surprised, because there's allegations, but when you have over 130 allegations, everybody can't be lying. So I think that it's people they're surprised, because these things that he are charged with, if you know Diddy, you either got something good to say about him or something bad. But the one thing that all of you are saying common is that he has the God syndrome. He thinks he's better than everybody, And I think that one of the things that took him down is that he started to look down on the regular Joe. You know what I'm saying? But he was so powerful and so manipulative that he leaned on them same people that he looked down on when he had a new brand coming out. He leaned on Harlem when he had a new brand coming out. He leaned on the black movement when he had a new brand coming out. But his each and every day livelihood, he didn't want him around him. And that's how I'm gonna end this. And that's honesty.
Damn. All right, well, man, I appreciate you, man. A dope interview, man. Really dope insight on Diddy, man, and everything that's going on, man. I know that the fans are gonna really appreciate it. You know, coming from somebody who, you know, was, you know, spent that much time with him, and you know, actually got to see some of these things, man. You know, I appreciate you taking your time, man. You know, I wish you success, man, and you know, hopefully, you know, more good things come from it, from your situations anyway.
Man, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you for taking the time and for seeking me out to do this. We were supposed to do this a long time ago. I'm glad we finally got around to doing it.
Me too, man. Definitely, bro. For sure.
All right. Be safe.
All right, bro.
Salute.
You too, bro. What's up? This is Cam Capone. We got more content like this coming soon. So hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in to Cam Capone News.